Hi there. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Good Soup After Dark. I'm Jay.
I'm Marie, and today we're introducing very special guest.
Junad from Trifecta Music Empire down in Delaware. Not only do we get some interesting background on his story and what he does with his record label, but he's also promoting a very special event.
November 23rd, Proving Ground, Delaware.
Yeah, so make sure you tune in and enjoy the episode.
Good Soup
After Dark. Hello, welcome to another episode of Good Soup After Dark. I'm your host, Jay Gonzalez. We have Marie behind the cameras on the ones and twos.
Hey.
And today we have a really special guest, a personal friend of ours, recording artist, entrepreneur, and pretty much the masterpiece of Delaware. Junad?
I love that intro. I got some big shoes to fill there.
Well, I don't know his shoe size, but sure. But we're just here to we've been working together and friends for, I guess now, since, when did we first meet? I was back in March.
I believe so, yes. The first meeting was March.
Yeah, we did interviews for the Delaware Music Network back in the day, and actually one of the first people we interviewed was one of your recording artists, and we can get into that a little bit more, but if you want to just introduce yourself and just get people familiar with you, it's your camera there.
I am Junad from Wilmington, Delaware, representing Trifecta Music Empire, a collective of artists, a music label, an event production company, and now also great affiliates and partners with Good Soup Productions.
Yeah, I guess we could kind of go into that a little bit about our partnership and what we're trying to do. Admittedly, we're still trying to figure things out as far as what we can do for you and, the services that we provide and the things that we're doing. I guess this is the phase where we take stuff and throw it against the wall and see what sticks, but quite a few things stuck already. As far as what we've done for you, we've helped cover some of the performance. We're trying to do vlog-like videos. What is your objective when it comes to the media side of Trifecta?
Overall, helping paint a picture of the journey. Of course, media is very important in the entertainment industry as far as coverage. A lot of things are awareness-based, people have to know you exist to care about you or to even be a part of the journey themselves. With it being a very big, vast world, not everyone's going to be at the events. Not everyone's going to be able to interact with us in person. Painting that picture online is a very important part of the journey so we could actually grow and scale and turn it into a bigger picture there.
Can we get into just a little bit? I know you probably say this a bunch of times and said it a bunch of times. We went into it with some of the interview we did with you before, but if we can get some background on, just a brief background on the origin of Trifecta and what it's become today.
Yeah, origin-wise, back in 2013, right after graduating high school, me, Press, and L kind of collectively just linked at L's house. He was like, hey, I got this idea. We could do a music label. And of course, we in fresh out of high school, we're like, yo, that sounds fun. Yeah, okay, let's dive in, let's do it. And we would go over there, go in his basement, go over the recording setup he had, the mic, the interface. At the time, even he was making beats, L was making beats as well. So it was he'd try to make a beat and we'll try to rap over that. We'll go on YouTube, lease beats, buy beats from different just random producers, just kind of playing around with it, seeing what works. And of course, originally started off as we're doing this because it's fun. We feel it's a very fun thing to do. And then slowly snowballing over the years into the more people that found interest in it or told us hey, you guys should actually take this serious. Transitioning from there.
Then when you say take it serious, when did that pivot or how did that pivot happen when it went from just a few guys making music to becoming what it is now, event curators? You do music critique lives on TikToks, you do pretty much everything as far as just what other record labels do. And I guess where I'm trying to come from with that question is I've known local SoundCloud rappers, I've known local groups, but first, like, what makes you different from just a bunch of guys making music, and when did that happen?
I would say the journey overall has been a part of that story, but the big major transition was like the end of 2022, like the last 2 years recently is when it's been a very big spike and drastic change as far as structure, accountability, like just the business operations as a whole. From 2013 to 2022, we still did what we did creatively. We've done shows, we've done the music videos, like we've done different things putting out music, but it was always passion project based. Like it wasn't exactly like, oh, we know what to do for the business, we know how to move, we know like, okay, we need to do this to make money. That's just all been more recent part of the journey. It was the transition from we're just doing this to have fun to when we actually first started seeing the first bit of money come in, to like, okay, if we're doing this for fun and this is a result is money, imagine what could happen if we pivot and now actually hyper focus on the business side of things.
So let's talk about the artistry real fast. Just like, when did you start performing and when did you start like writing?
I'd say writing, even before 2013, like being from Wilmington, kind of being engulfed in like the urban culture. I always played around like rapping in general, but always like as a kid, definitely less serious than it is now. But I've been writing for a while. I can't exactly remember like when I would start, but I would definitely say like younger in the youth. As far as actually songwriting versus just writing like 16s, like verses to spit like stuff over other people's beats. That really started around 18 when L came to us with the idea. That's the first time I actually sat down with a beat and be like, all right, let me write a song. Like, let me put a hook together, a verse, like actually structure this out to where we could perform it to people versus having a couple bars to spit outside with your friends just over like a random beat as a verse and just ciphering. And then the first time we performed, actually, I want to say around 2016 at Voltage Lounge. I may be off on the year a little bit, but I believe 2016 at Voltage Lounge in Philly. That was the first performance. We had an opportunity where the event organizer reached out, sold a couple of tickets, and were able to secure some stage time, bring the fam and the friends out. And that, I think, definitely put an extra battery in the back as far as now going like, all right, like we got our first concert out of the way. Like, yeah, that felt nice. And of course, even then, looking back, like we celebrated that moment. Like if we performed at the Super Bowl, like, and it was a very small, intimate show. It wasn't like a really crazy big show. But those moments kind of speak to the volume of how we did it for fun. Like we hit that home run, and compared to now how we move, we weren't worried about email lists or following up with the fans. We weren't worried about selling merch. Like we were just like, yeah, we hit the stage, we're lit, let's go back home and party.
You know, you brought up the merch. We just want to point out some of the stuff we have here. We got your jersey in the back right behind you, and we got another t-shirt. Where can they find the merch real fast?
TrifectaEmpire.com. TrifectaEmpire.com.
Nice. I wanted to ask you, because you mentioned like urban Delaware culture. Now, I mean, me particularly, I'm from New York City. Marie's from Ukraine, so the culture is a little bit different. Can you describe what that is and how it influenced you?
Honestly, I feel like urban Delaware specifically is a very nice melting pot. Like Delaware being a retirement state for the older demographic. A lot of the younger demographic, like born and raised, honestly, even a lot of people you see that don't really move out there, they're already there. It's a very diverse culture, so it's a lot of different races, backgrounds. And of course, with people even moving in, like younger people just being born there. Definitely a lot of hip hop culture ingraining there. Just like everywhere, like there's the rough parts of Wilmington, like rougher areas. But overall, it's kind of that small inner city feel within like deep downtown Wilmington and the surrounding areas. Wilmington as a whole gets very vast. Like there's the more upper echelon areas, the more suburban parts of Wilmington. But I grew up around the city urban areas of Wilmington there.
Gotcha. Is there anyone notable from Delaware that we need to know about as far as just like your influences?
So from Delaware, honestly, I could definitely shout out a few folks that have done some pretty grand things that I think are really cool. There's Sap, that's a producer. He actually worked with Mac Miller and Meek Mill and a lot of other artists. Like The Game has even spoke about in a song having Kendrick like hear his music and go, hey, this is fire. And he reps Delaware pretty heavy. Quaddy Diesel's another one. A very strong songwriter and good performer. And honestly, just like an overall very entertaining artist. And a humble, very down-to-earth person as well when you actually get to like sit and talk with him. Those are two notable people from Delaware I feel like have influenced the perspective I have on not only like carrying Delaware as you're moving up the ladder, but just respecting the movements and kind of seeing how they move overall.
As far as Delaware, it's really cool hearing that all those people came from there. And I mean, like, I guess like it could be just like due to my own ignorance, but I don't know too many like artists or producers or people other than you guys, honestly. So I really kind of respect what you're doing. You're not trying to like get out of Delaware. You're trying to like make it an actual scene. And maybe we can even transition into like what you're doing now. You're promoting a new event. Can we talk about like your old event curation and how it's evolved into what it's going to become like pretty soon, actually? Can we talk about that a little bit?
Yes. So we started off with the Trifecta Showcase series. Which initially kicked off of us doing a bar on a Tuesday night. We went to someone else's event at the venue. We're like, oh, this is pretty cool. Went back on a random night and seen like, okay, during the week, it doesn't seem like there's much foot traffic here. Like having a conversation with the bartender, and what I didn't even know at the time was the owner. Like, oh, okay, like, well, are you guys looking to have someone come through and do events? And of course, being like a fresh face and not having a relationship there, it's like, well, you know, like if it's for the weekend, like, I don't know, but like, what are you thinking? And I'm like, well, what's your worst day of the week? Like, what's the lightest day you could think of? And they're like, well, like a Tuesday. Like, we don't really have much going on a Tuesday. So, of course, we made a strong pitch. We're like, give us a Tuesday night and we'll pack it out. We'll get the building full of people, get you some bar sales. Like, let's make it happen. And I think just the confidence alone in the pitch, he was like, all right, like, show me. Show me you guys coming in and packing the bar out. And that very first event, we actually sold 100 tickets and were able to sell out the first Trifecta Showcase event there.
How were you so confident that you could sell it out on a Tuesday? Like, especially being, you said that was your first like major event like that, right?
Yeah, so there were other attempts even. Like we've done like a Halloween party that barely had people show up. I've done like a game night before and had even less people show up. Like there were different attempts. But passionately, I know there's not a lot of opportunities for different venues, just kind of engulfing and letting the hip hop scene take over for the night, knowing that there's a connotation behind hip hop itself where people are like, oh, they don't want the violence, they don't want this. So passionately, I was very involved with the promotion of it, telling artists like, hey, we got a shot to show the scene around here that we could come together, do this without problems, and everyone could gain fans from it. Everyone could kind of work the room and show them what we have to offer. And at the same time, too, every artist performing tonight gets to brag to like, hey, we sold out a show on a Tuesday night. You could take that to another venue and let them know like, hey, yeah, I just performed at an event. We did 100 tickets on a Tuesday. Like, I want to strike a deal with you over here, and kind of just talking to artists on that standpoint. And I think a lot of the artists involved were like, okay, like I see the vision, let's do it. And I won't say it was just an us thing. Like we orchestrated and organized it, but it was a community thing where everyone pulled together. Like all of the artists involved were bringing 10 to 20 people a piece and bringing it together where it's like, all right, now we're able to pack this room out as a group and win together.
And it's just like, as far as, so like that first show, like, was it just Trifecta artists? or was that when you started? Because like I see what you do recently and what you're doing now, and like how were you able to attract other artists to even be a part of the show? Because it wasn't just a Junad show.
Yeah, so that first event wasn't just TME artists. It was open to anyone who was able to help us pull the crowd. At the time, that was just the main stipulation we were telling artists. And of course, even from transition wise, like then we were like, hey, we need this many people. This is going to be the set times. And that's even evolved to now where we've lowered the requirements a lot because we realized, like, yes, there are the people that can hit those benchmarks, but in the same tone of how we felt accepted in the spot, we didn't want to start shutting other people out because they can't hit a certain benchmark. We've literally at this point made the requirement just one. Like if you have one person that believes in you that could buy your ticket and you can come out, that's all it takes. That way everyone feels included. So even how we used to run it requirement wise to how we're switching it over now, we realized even though some artists were able to hit those benchmarks, not every artist was able to hit it. So the same way we were embraced by the venue, we wanted to make sure that other artists felt that same feeling. Again, knowing not every space gives hip hop a chance. We don't want to shut anybody out. We just want to actually push the artists to work. Like we're working to build something as a unit, as a community. So we just want to make sure that everyone's actually taking the opportunity to not only help further themselves, but further the movement overall. And pivoting even the benchmark to a lower point now, it's if an artist can bring at least one person, there's one person that believes in them, they're able to hit the stage, get performance footage, and have an opportunity to come through, gain new fans, sell merch if they have merch, really be able to work the room and turn the opportunity into something great for them.
It's just as far as like those events, do they help you grow Trifecta as a label? Because you mentioned you work with other artists that are not necessarily part of your orbit, but like I guess we could just even talk about like who's in your orbit a little bit, and maybe kind of just, I mean, do you want to just talk about a few people that you've worked with, whether with their family or like people you met through these events?
Yeah, so I can speak internally and externally. So like artists like Mo, B-Roy were artists that already had connections, like to people we know. Mo more specifically, like knew of people we knew of, but really met us through the events. B-Roy actually being even like a family friend and being very close with a lot of members already before we integrated music-wise. I feel like the events help curate things like that. A lot of artists, even externally, that have performed at multiple events, like we started building like nice relationships with them. We're even talking to them outside of the events, kind of just hanging with them, going to each other's studio sessions there, like really, again, just building more of that community aspect. That's been a very nice touch point from the events. I do feel like the events overall have helped mold and shape what we have going. But it's like that tale of like iron sharpening iron. I think it's good for the entire community to have a movement like that where everyone's able to push themselves to go harder and go further. Like if someone has a really good performance at the show, of course, everyone's congratulating them. But competitively wise, as artists, people are also like, all right, like I gotta have my set be that lit, or I gotta have it be more lit. And that just keeps elevating everybody forward overall.
Can we talk about the transition into what it's becoming? We have an event coming up soon.
Yeah, Saturday, November 23rd, 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. will be in Wilmington, Delaware at Base for the Proving Grounds Delaware edition, the debut event. Yeah, so that event, different from how we were running it before, which was pretty much the artists send in their music, they perform whatever way they prefer to send in the music. Now, with the requirement being changed to artists are going to have to perform over a performance version of the track, which could be like the hooks in, the verses are out, or all the main vocals are gone. There's ad libs in with backing vocals, like a version where it's different from the studio version you're recording and putting on Apple Music. You have to give the listeners a different experience. Some artists even just performing strictly over instrumentals with no vocals at all. But that is now a requirement for everyone that wants to perform. That way we can up the event production, put on more of a show, and even lean into inviting more people out, having more people be curious to see what a concert produced for the small local scene is like.
I want to go more into like, because I'm not so musically inclined or like so super familiar with like what's the difference between a performance track and like someone who's performing over like a studio track?
Yeah, so the main thing is professional wise, like the experts, the famous musicians, when you see them perform live at a concert and you just hear their voice, you don't hear the actual song in the back, or you just hear the hook. But when they're rapping, you actually hear the verse, or when they're singing, they make sure their voice isn't in the background, so you just hear their main vocals. The vocals clash when you're performing over the actual song itself. So people will hear you live, but they'll also hear your vocals in the back. And it's a thing like I myself have even done, performing over just the full song. For lack of better terms, it's kind of like training wheels. Like, all right, you're able to perform. If you mess up a word, you can kind of just like play it off, dance on stage, anything, and then get right back to it because you have that guideline and in the back of you just playing. But the transition really is, at a professional standpoint, like forcing you to like, no, you have to rehearse. You need to rehearse so you know exactly what you're doing. So you're more prepared for the show and the opportunity in the moment. And also it gives the audience a better show. Most audience members, and like we've even like surveyed the audience and asked them different questions at times, like how they're feeling. Sometimes, for example, they're like, hey, I don't hear the performer. Like I just hear their song. They're not holding the mic up to their mouth enough. But on the artist standpoint, like they may not even realize it or not know any better because you still hear their words coming through the speakers. Now, if someone is on stage and they don't have the mic close enough and all you hear is the beat and they don't even hear themselves, they're like, oh, okay, like I gotta raise the mic up. So it's just, for a long story short, a very smooth way for us to start preparing the artists in the area for that next step up, while also challenging everyone to make this a standard. Like this is what you should be doing because you're gonna have to eventually anyway if you want to take this full time and serious.
I think it's come from like when you go to the concert, you don't want to hear back, like someone just opened the mouth in the microphone. You want to hear how someone performed. That's the magic of performance on the stage.
Yeah, literally, where it feels like lip syncing if you're performing over the regular track, and yeah, people want a show. They paid for a show, you know?
Yeah, and I feel like it attracts not only like a different type of artist, but a different type of clientele. And a lot of this sounds like personal preference, and it sounds like it can be intimidating, but just like, you know, just based off of like your urge for like artist development and like having people ready for the stage. I think if people can see past like the nerves that they can get from it, or like maybe they feel excluded because they're not up to that standard, it's like, well, now you got to rehearse, now you got to practice if you want to be at this standard. And I like how, like, even with your own team, like sometimes I'm part of meetings and I just hear like how you always encourage them, like, hey guys, remember, you need to know your performance, you need to know your words, you need to do this on a performance track. Like you can lean heavy because no one wants to see like lip syncing. No one wants to see, you know, someone forget their words, and it happens, the show must go on. But I feel like by you setting this higher standard, eventually you're just going to get like the cream of the crop rise to the top. So that's definitely something that like you don't see too often at this level, I don't think. And I just love that like you guys are the ones that are like setting that standard. You know?
Thank you. Definitely appreciate it. It's exciting. I really do genuinely want to see the area win. So I feel like if it takes someone to spearhead that, and that needs to be us, like so be it. I do want to give a lot of credit to Chris, even over at Base. Speaking with him, meeting with him, and kind of seeing on a more grand scale proof of concept shown, like these are ways this works and this is how you pivot towards that. This idea even was birthed from like a conversation with him on how we were running things, sitting and speaking with him about what we were doing, and him even just asking questions. We're like, why are you doing it like that? And when you have to answer a question like that with intent, it's like, okay, well, why were we doing it like this? And it's not even like he's like, oh, you have to do it like this, not like that, like this. It's really just a genuine like, why? And when you go to explain it, it's like, if you feel like you can't explain it thoroughly, like, what is the intent? Like, what is the motion of it overall? Like, if you guys are putting on shows and saying, hey, this is an opportunity to get the artist's fans, why are you running the show like that? And that birthing to, okay, well, if this is the goal and this is what we want to do, we need to really put on a show. Like, not just make it like every other event that's happening around. Like, give it a special feel to make people go like, oh yeah, no, I don't want to miss out on that. Last time we heard this girl singing, it was amazing. Like, she just had the beat playing. It was just her voice. Like, those moments create moments for the artists that actually build fans. So curating that is bigger than just doing an event to do it. Like, you actually want to organize and curate the opportunity for the artists like we say we are.
Yeah, and I love how this seems like more than just like a means for you guys to make money or even raise your name. Like, a big part of it, you know, based on our conversations previously, a big part of it is artist development. Can you talk about what you do as Trifecta Music Empire for artist development?
I was gonna say, if you don't mind, actually have like a segue, since I was just talking about bass, and this is just like a real like honest moment. What I realized when speaking with them about like what we were doing for artist development, we were doing like a section of it, but now even working alongside them, they're helping us transition more towards actually building out plans for artists, like having artists fill out an assessment form like, hey, where are you at? What do you have going on now? What are your goals? What do you plan on doing in the future? And once you have this roadmap laid out, like, all right, what are the actual day-to-day steps to do this? What do you need done each week? What should you have done each month, each quarter, like throughout the year? And that even let us know what we were doing was cool. Like, it was nice to help artists sharpen the sword, but what they're doing is that extra layer and step of actually developing an artist in full.
Can we talk a little bit more about what you do as far as like artist development? Like, you've already shared a lot, like especially with what you're doing with Proving Grounds, but just like outside of the events, what do you do as far as helping artists develop their skills and their being comfortable in their artistry?
I'd say really just trying to be a resource as much as we can. Like, something we do with the Mic Check Party Global is a live music review. We tell artists, hey, send your music in. We'll talk about it. We'll have the audience vote on it, so you can get like live feedback from an audience, and you can read everyone's comments, see how they feel about the tracks. And then, of course, if wanted by the artist, dive in a little deeper to like, okay, well, if everyone doesn't like it, why? Like, why don't y'all like this track that I put my heart and soul into? And just letting them know, like, it's not always like the content of what you're doing. Like, sometimes it can be the songwriting where it's like, hey, like, you have to make sure you're actually making this sonically pleasing. When someone's going to rap along it or sing along it, make sure there's a nice cadence and rhythm for it. Make sure the pacing and the style of it is smooth. Sometimes it could just be the quality of the record itself. Like, if the engineering isn't good, a lot of the times people will skip right over it. And that even sucks where, say you check every other box. The songwriting is great. You picked a great beat. But as soon as the vocals start, it sounds muffled, like someone recorded in a closet. People will skip over it because on a day-to-day, they're on Apple Music, they're on Spotify, they're listening to celebrities who have professional engineers mixing their music. So to even get on a standard point where like your song may play after Chris Brown's, if that happens and the quality drops, people are immediately going to go, okay, like, yeah, now I got to skip this to the next one. Not saying everyone's engineer has to be as great as a professional industry standard engineer, but people who do engineering day after day, week after week as a full-time thing versus people who don't, there's going to always be a jump in quality there.
How often do you get the, like, when you review this songs, the trouble that artists do that you find is like, oh, there's beginner, what they do, like their little thing that you understand is just it's not good quality. Like you don't need to wait until something's like listen to lyrics or something. You just like, oh, that's you. If you fix this, you sound much better. Or like, I understand you just beginner. You're like 15 and you do this in the basement, like when nobody's here. Like, how do you understand? Like, you have this, or is like it's just my imagination? So like, oh, you probably must have something you hear.
It seems like you have really good intuition. Like, where did that come from?
So the intuition, I feel like, has just come from experience, sharpening the sword during those years that we weren't heavily focused on the business side of things. Like, we were just locking in creatively. Like, we wrote a lot and put out a lot, wrote a lot, not put out a lot, just for so long that I feel like we've gotten a good handle on that part of things. As far as a key note, when you hear something, you're like immediately like, oh yeah, that's probably like someone that's new at this or a beginner, is really the engineering quality. Like, a lot of people, once they reach a certain point, they realize like, okay, if I'm not going to be as good as the engineer I can pay, I'm going to pay an engineer. I'm going to pay an engineer to do what they do best, so the song itself doesn't lose quality, and like the overall song isn't sacrificed just for the sake of either like saving the dollar or feeling like, oh, I could just do it myself and it'll be fine. Like, that benchmark is usually where it is. If a song starts and immediately like everything sounds muffled, I'm like, like before. And even the beat, like the beats themselves get mixed and mastered too. So like the instruments, each individual stem of it gets audio balanced. If the beat comes in and it's super rough, it's like, okay, yeah, like this beat's not even mixed. Before the vocals start, you know, like, yeah, this probably is not going to be the best track. Of course it can be like if the beat's rough and the vocals are clear, like maybe the artist just doesn't know and they're trying to engineer it themselves or something, but there's like little key points you can listen out for. A big one too, songwriting wise, is just very basic rhyme schemes. Like when people are like cat, hat, bat, like you're like, all right, you gotta give me some more imagery, man. Give me some things I feel like I haven't heard before, or a way I haven't heard it. Of course, there's only but so many words out there to use, but using imagery, storytelling to paint different pictures with the same set of words versus just going for something where you feel like you can predict the next line that's happening. Those two things are like main key points as far as telling there. Other things can include like delivery, like how they're saying what they're saying, if they sound like they're reading versus if they sound like they're actually projecting and confident with the delivery, whether it's singing or rapping.
When you say engineering, like, I have an idea of what you mean, and I think I can hold a conversation, but you think you can kind of like go into depth about like the different roles, especially like the roles that you guys take as Trifecta to help artists like make a song? So like, I guess we could start off like, what exactly do you mean by engineering?
So engineering like is the mixing and mastering of a record, basically taking the record from when the beat stems are in a DAW, which is just the program that they use to record in, to actually ready to put up on Apple Music and Spotify and present to the world. It's that polishing process. Like if you hear a track recorded raw, it doesn't sound how it sounds when it goes up on Apple Music and Spotify. The engineers actually make it so the song gets polished a bit as far as the audio balancing, like making sure the vocals are nice and set to a certain standard, making sure like the breaths are quieted or taken out, just things like that as far as that.
Do you have like a dedicated engineer with Trifecta, or you guys are?
No, so we don't have a dedicated engineer. We work a lot with Reek Roman, shout out Reek, for pretty much a lot of what we use. But he is his own entity. He's not part of the team, but definitely a shout out to him as well. For the internal artists, I mean, a bit of the recording process, of course, like scout for beats, listen to beats, whether that's local producers online. Try to, of course, lean a lot into the local scene. Not only are the producers more accessible, but you get a different feel being able to actually like in person, hear the beat, fill it out, talk to the producer about like, oh, I like this part, I don't like that part, could we change that, etc. Versus having to do it online, it's really just like emailing back and forth. It's not as intimate and like creative of a process there. But yeah, internally we do that with the team and then take it to the engineer. Once it's done, mixed and mastered, artist is fine with it, then it goes up to streaming platforms. externally, we refer people over to bass. We don't really do too much as far as song creation for external artists. That's more of like a referral over to like, hey, this is a studio you can go to. And honestly, even let them know, like, if you need help writing songs or doing different things, like they have workshops and programs that they're building out different opportunities to help push artists in the right direction there.
That's awesome. And we've talked about bass a little bit, but can you just talk to more about what they are and the services they offer, maybe even like how you found them?
So I actually found them through Reek. Reek made that introduction there. They kind of just let me know their overall movement. And I don't want to speak as far as like their mission statement for them, but their overall movement is to treat the creative economy where we are like each creative is running a business. Like, show them like, hey, you need to have a plan as far as the timeline of what you're doing. You need to have clear image of your branding, like a marketing plan, set aside a budget, like treat this like you would a business as a creative so you can see the fruits of your labor, so you can actually get rewarded for what you're doing. And that role is like a stronghold, like a headquarters in a sense for the area that artists can go to when they're like, okay, like this is what I need to do. How do I get the further details of that mapped out? Or this is an idea I have. How do I now map this out into a role plan or a more fine detailed plan?
We talked a lot about like local and how you want to help artists really grow what the Delaware scene is. But what are your ambitions and goals with, I guess, like Trifecta specifically, as far as just expanding and being in other places?
So the Empire part of the team definitely speaks to the volumes of ambition there. We want to work very diligently to scale to other places. Of course, starting with the local scene to have those strong roots and foundation where we are, but slowly pushing across the East Coast, like going places that are within driving distance, whether that be Philly, Baltimore, Jersey, DC, and then going from there, building the same thing we've built here in those different areas and working towards spreading, honestly, as far as we can go, as high as we can take it.
Now, when we were talking about like when you started off doing the showcases and you were trying to appeal to the business owners, you mentioned that like sometimes people have feelings associated with hip hop events or just the hip hop culture in general. Can you get like a little more specific of like what that is and I guess like how that makes you feel as someone who is a hip hop artist with a predominantly hip hop label? Like, what are some of those things that you face and like what are some of the things that you may do to combat that?
Definitely a bit of that I feel like is, and it's a larger conversation as well, but like hip hop being predominantly like run by minorities, I feel like there's a connotation there also with when you hear hip hop, a lot of the hip hop at a high level even as well, like there's different things being glorified, there's different subjects being talked about, but it's not specifically just because it's like, oh, this is all heads have to say. It's because those are experiences and different things that you deal with in urban communities. So like if that's their version of the story they're telling and this is what they're painting, it can be a thing where if that's the popular, then, oh, that must be all of it.
But what specifically is that?
Get a better grasp of it. It's like when you say like, what is it specifically? Like,
I think what you're trying to allude to is that there's violence in hip hop, right? Like in some violence in hip hop, sometimes it glorifies dealing drugs. I mean, Jay-Z was a crack dealer that turned into an entrepreneur, a businessman. And I mean, even there's some lesson in that. He wasn't just a crack dealer. He was a crack dealer with a business plan and that turned into a businessman. Sorry, a business man. I mean, like me personally, if I could just talk about my personal feelings with it, I think people who have that feeling towards hip hop in general, generally full of shit. I mean, we talk about glorifying violence. Who doesn't love The Godfather Part 1 and 2? Who doesn't love Goodfellas? Who doesn't love Casino? You know what I mean? Like, it's not just hip hop is just the violent genre. I mean, you have violent movies. You have violent books. I mean, people love true crime. You know, there's a whole, yep. Like there's a whole group of people in society that love just watching other people, or not watching other people get murdered. That's snuff films. That's not what we're talking about.
Yes.
But like love the content talking about how someone was murdered and how bad it was and how gruesome it was. Why is hip hop any different from a mafia movie? Why is hip hop any different from Call of Duty? Call of Duty has a Mountain Dew sponsorship. So like, I guess like my question to you is like, how the do you feel about it?
Honestly, I feel like
Train.
Saved by the Train.
You have a moment to think.
yeah. So I feel like overall the connotation that hip hop gets is definitely one of those things where if people want to have an opinion, they're gonna have it. Like you can't convince everybody of what's more grained in reality. But hip hop is a wide variety of things. It's not just gangster rap. It's not just trap or drill. Like there's just regular party records. There's more intimate love songs being made. There's songs where people are just talking about their feelings or issues they've faced. Like just in any genre of music, you can find like violent lyrics, different things, glorifying things people may seem as negative across any form of music, regardless of the genre, really. And it's one of those things where, again, being from the inner city, like we're already used to facing obstacles and challenges and overcoming them. It's just another obstacle, another thing to overcome and keep pushing towards being an example of this is the art, it's not the culture. Like a piece of art within the culture does not define the entire culture.
And just like you said, hip hop is more than just gangster rap. It's more than drill. I mean, there's emo rap, there's rock rap. I mean, Lil Wayne did a rock album back in the day. Yeah, that wasn't really the same content as like some of the earlier stuff that he did. So, like, what do you do, if anything specific? Like, how do you deal with those stereotypes, and how do you just promote your artists? And because we can even talk about your artists specifically. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that Smokes a Lot does kind of like more, he might talk about more about that stuff specifically. Mo makes drug references, you know what I mean? Like Wowo does ass shaking and stuff like that. So like, I mean, just like there's so many different levels even within Trifecta music. Like how do you manage, how do you promote, and how do you deal with people's negative feelings with that? Because even though like it is hip hop specific, you're still trying to appeal to the masses, right?
Yeah. So I would say, of course, each artist has their own different approach as far as marketing. Everyone's going to have a different demographic, a different fan base that you're reaching and pitching towards. The main thing just to remember when we're doing all of this is that we're here for the people that want to be here. Like no one's going to force feed music to someone and make them a fan. Our job is to put out content, put ourselves out there as far as opportunities, and put in the work to get in front of as many people as possible. And the people that naturally are drawn in or want to learn more about the artist, want to actually like the music, come to the concerts, those are the people we hyper focus on.
Did you have anything about that, being that like, I mean, not for nothing, you're not from America, so.
I think the more variety you have in your Trifecta music empire, the more masses you can reach out. So someone like this, someone like that. And I think it's cool to have like a different, I understand what you're trying to say about like how to take the stereotypes about specific way to express yourself. But more you have variety, more you have fans of specific group, and altogether it's going to be a fan of Trifecta, the artist of Trifecta. So I think it's cool to have different stuff. It's also like what we do. We do artist profiles. We do interviews. We also do own like weird movies, or like we wanna do own shows, like different types, because we wanna be comfortable for different types of people. For they feel like, oh, I'm interested like with this, but not with that. So I'm gonna watch their channel specifically for this.
Yeah, and if I could talk on that, it's not necessarily that we're trying to appeal to a bunch of different people, but I mean, we have our own varied interests as well. And like you said, we want to do. I like doing interviews. I want to get into documentaries. Marie wants to do movies and short films and music videos. So yeah, like it's that having that. It's like kind of catering towards a mass appeal, but not really because we just have varied interests.
We express ourselves the way we can. And if it's catch some attention, that's great for us. If it's not, we at least do something that we like to do.
I feel like that's a very beautiful point to be made. That embodies what we're doing as well in the same standpoint. The point is, we want to make music because we like making music. And of course, we're going to make the music we would want to hear ourselves as well. That even being said, like conceptually wise, just because you make a song about something, like that doesn't mean that's who you are as a core. Yes, a lot of music is self-reflection, so it could be like, yo, this is your journey, these are things you experience, these are parts of you, but it's not the only part of you. It's not like the song you make is like, yeah, that's his entire personality, what kind of food he likes, what he does in his free time, etc. So like, it's just giving a piece of yourself out, like, hey, this is what I like to do, who also enjoys this as a product.
Yeah, and you're also going to change with the time, and it's kind of interesting how person grow and change the mind. Right now you want to sing about drugs, and next time you want to sing about, I don't know, love and respect. It's everything is like a stages. And I don't believe that as an artist going to do only one type of songs all the time. We will see how Post Malone change. Like, yeah, he's from Texas. He started with a it was like kind of rappy.
Yeah, it was hip hop, I guess,
Yeah.
right? And then he remembered he was a white guy.
And he goes straight to the country, and he find the access to the people who like country, and they just like, wow, that sounds cool. And the fans who know him as a rapper find is like, okay, we still support him. He's go to the roots, because he's from Texas, if I remember correctly. So he just like, oh, okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm changed to this right now. And I can say he do the bad music now. It's just a different style. He still have his own personality, but in a different style. So it's interesting how person changed during the time. It's like, oh, this happens, this happens, this happens. People changed with the time, and the interests change. It's good that you have different people, and it doesn't mean that while we're gonna singing about ass shaking and smokes a lot about violence, and like they're gonna change. Maybe not drastically like a Post Malone, but they probably gonna change. Something gonna change in their life, and they're gonna express themselves the way they do. And right now it's this, and it's changed for something else. Because if a person doesn't change, it means it doesn't grow. And if it doesn't grow, you regress. So you can't stay on the same spot. You or grow or you regress. So go to regress.
Marie, I don't mean to put you on the spot. Like just being from Ukraine.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I know that hip hop exists worldwide.
Yeah.
But just transitioning from what you did in Ukraine to coming here and like starting to work with you guys specifically, like how has that been for you? Has that like changed your perspective or grown any other curiosities towards hip hop in general?
If we're talking about hip hop specifically, we have a hip hop, but because Ukraine is really young country, is only 33, like Jay. We still have like people steps on a like wrong ground is like is like it's not stable on the ground, so it's like really shaky. All the music like this, we have a strong bands, but everything else is like not stable. And because American music is like because America is like immigrant country, there's like a lot of people bring own stuff into the country, and all this mixed together and is grow and is like for a long time it's have more stable ground. I listen to lots of American music, pop music, hip hop music, rock music, everything. even country. So when I hear, sometimes I don't know a lot of, like, we have more pop stuff because they're more appeal on outside of America, outside of Europe, like everywhere. But little like a local thing, sometimes you're just talking about some rapper I heard first time. So for me, like we talked before, I hear the quality and a train. So train. And of course, when I hear music like your songs like performance on your show, I hear that songs and I'm like, oh, that sounds the quality. Like, if I don't know who's this person, I can say like, oh, it's probably someone famous because it sounds good. I just cannot know this because it's not like goes outside. And because America have own state, have like some local artists. And I think it's so cool to go outside. Like, not the artist, just take the artist and put in a California and make them famous. No, just make this person known around the country and then go outside. That's make us like more, I don't know, I want to say fabulous. It's good to know that not only that pop music was like really have lots of money and this artist don't make the music just singing, a lot of them just singing songs with someone else write. And you hear like a real person, work hard. From some state, most of people don't know, because trust me, not everyone knows how many states in the United States, okay? Or how to write and pronounce them. And you hear this person and it sounds really good. Some people in Ukraine like try to find someone like this to feel like you feel really like proud if you know someone when nobody knows, but it sounds good. So yes, it's cool. You feel proud if you know someone who like real person who do music outside of a pop and this like. Of course, we all want money and everything like they have. There's somewhere in the sky, there's stars and shit. But it's really interesting to listen someone with the soul, like who write it down the songs by themselves. I was really shocked that Beyonce doesn't write the songs, the Rihanna doesn't write the songs, like because I listen to them, they're cool, but they don't write the songs by themselves. Not music, not song. They just a face. And it's so interesting to see the real person, and they write it down, this song, they sing this song, and they perform in real life right now with their own voice. I don't know if if I answer your question, but it's definitely make me feel kind of special that I hear how it actually works, and I can say like, oh, so anyone who work hard, who try hard, can achieve some goals that sometimes sounds like unrealistic.
Yeah, I think you answered the question.
Thank you. I needed so much time to explain myself.
No, you're doing great, by the way.
Thank you.
It's nice to have a camera on you this time.
Honestly, it was a really cool explanation.
Yeah.
One thing I want to ask you, Junad, like with everything that you've said so far and like just like how you manage all these different artists and like you curate all these different events, like you're also a recording artist yourself. One of my favorite songs is Overtime. You know, like sometimes when I feel like I don't want to do like a lot of work, I think about that song. Just how do you manage to find a balance between promoting yourself and your own artistry, and I guess in a sense feeding your own ego, because we all have one, and also trying to like manage and help everyone else on what they're doing?
I feel like at the foundation, definitely enjoying the process a lot. Like I genuinely enjoy each part of the process, like the hard parts, the easy parts, the fun parts, the boring parts. I enjoy it, so I feel like that helps a lot. More recently, having L and Key now leaning more into the internal management, Also even elevating a bit of weight, so it makes it easier to balance there. But trying to consistently remind myself and come back to, like, even though we started doing this for fun and it transitioned to, oh, now it's more of a business, it always still needs to be something we enjoy, because at that point, like, that's the overall goal. It's to do something we love doing for a living. That's why we push so hard to do this. And even on that same standard, a reminder of, like, this is hard. It's a hard path. It's not easy. Like, juggling this, the personal life, the work-life balance, like, just the ambitious side of, okay, I need to work around the clock. Like, all of that balancing is hard and challenging. But I also view life in general as it's always going to be hard. Whether you take this path, it's going to be hard, or whether you dive into working the job and being like, all right, I just got to do it outside of work, it's also going to be hard. It's just, regardless of which way you go, when you choose that hard, you push forward with it and give it your all. That way, at the end of the day, you at least don't feel like there's any regret towards what you were doing. You really dive in wholeheartedly. And I try to keep that in mind when balancing everything. Like, to give it your all, you also have to rest. You have to take breaks. You have to make sure you're going at a pace that is going to allow you to push for the longevity versus being like, all right, I gave it a mile for a week. And I just try to keep reminding myself of that a lot there.
Asking you about, like, you know, your own personal goals and, like, your own personal artistry. Do you have anything, like, coming out soon that you want to promote that's specifically Junad?
I'm going to be dropping a single called Lottery soon. Goal is to drop it on my birthday. So when y'all say happy birthday, I'm going to send you that link back. Yeah, trying to drop that November 30th. That's going to be coming out with artist Mark Battles.
So recently, Marie and I got an iMac. And I think, like, part of the cool thing with doing what we do is just, like, cool toys, you know, and they're not just toys, they're tools. They're tools of the trade. And, like, getting this computer, like, literally banged out a video, like, in a few hours last night. Like, that being said, are there any, like, cool toys that you either just recently acquired or you're looking to get? Like, and you could talk like a little shop here. We're hoping that there's people that, like, even if we don't understand, there's plenty of people out there that kind of understand what you're doing, but is there something that you're looking to acquire or something you just got that's pretty cool?
Honestly, I would have to say, like, the coolest thing thus far has really been, like, the in-home studio. Being able to just go downstairs and be like, all right, got this idea, let's bang it out. That, to me, was like a kid in the candy store. I'm like, like, yes, we can go and get right. I don't got to drive and just hold the idea. There's been different times where, like, we have to pull up to the studio just even for, like, a demo or a reference, where it's like, when going through that process, like, I'm listening to the beat in the car, like, rapping it over and over again. I'm like, all right, I got to keep this, I got to get this right. And of course, pretty early on as well, we started getting the equipment to, like, record ourselves in-house. So we've always had, like, that demo feel. But the quality difference when actually having a booth versus just having the mic standing, it makes me even more excited about it, because I'm like, all right, now the demo sounds even better, so we can get into that quicker. And yeah, it's been the biggest new toy thus far.
Just the studio in general.
Yeah.
You know, I'm glad you said that, because I was expecting, like, oh yeah, I just got the M Alpha 53967Z. And I'm like, oh yeah, I know exactly what that is. So I appreciate the answer.
I have a question about a studio. How long do you go to this goal, and how much is, like, take like time and money? Is, like, is expensive thing to have a studio at house?
Yeah, no, definitely. Took a decent bit of time. Shout out to Mo. He was actually able to construct that for us, so we saved a lot as far as the cost of what it could have been. But even material wise, it was definitely, like, a column involved. Like, there's definitely a bit of money that goes towards it as far as the actual materials to get the booth situated, the sound insulation that goes up on the walls. Honestly, out of everything, the sound insulation probably is the most expensive. Those,
you mean that fluffy stuff?
You would be surprised. It's nuts. Those specifically, I don't think were super expensive, but the ones like the rectangles you'll see on the wall, they're there to kind of absorb part of the sound. those individual pieces could be like 40 to 70 bucks each. And it's just like, why? why does this cost this much? And then when you're shopping for it, you don't realize like until you get to that point, they're like, oh, it's like Elle was grabbing these and then telling me afterwards how much it is. And I'm like, it's what? It's So yeah, there's costs associated with it there, but long term, it's very resourceful because if you're paying for studio time just to etch down ideas and figure things out and kind of test the waters versus just going when you need the final version done, it becomes a crazy gap of how much money you could be spending. A recording session could be 50 to 70 an hour. If you're taking 3-4 hours just to figure out exactly what you want to do, how you want to say it, it's a couple $100 gone just to figure it out. And then, okay, when you're finally ready to do it, it may take 2 more hours to do the actual final vocals, have it mixed and mastered and ready to produce to the world. And now it's at this point, it's like, all right, well, you just spent $300 on that track alone. But you want to drop a song every week, every 2 weeks, every month. And like, it can get expensive fast. Having the studio in-house just allows us to avoid the extra spending and spend more efficiently.
So I can say it's not a toy, it's more a tool, because just like the toy is like something you can use and forget about that. And a tool, it's like, yeah, I spend money, time to make it, but in the future it's give me more time because I'm not driving to the studio, more money because I'm not spending money on a studio.
How often do you get up in the middle of the night like, I got a song, and you just run? Has that happened yet?
Yeah, no, honestly, I feel like the inspiration comes very randomly. Of course, like there's been times where like it's genuinely just from absolutely nothing. It's like, I got an idea. And then there's other times where like passively I'm listening to beats, like as I'm doing different things, I listen to a beat and then like I hear a beat and it's like, oh no, I gotta stop whatever I'm doing. Like mid laundry, leave it, mid cleaning the room, leave it. Like I've even been driving and actually pulled over on the side of the road because I was hearing a beat while I was driving where I'm like, I gotta write this down, at least start it. So like I know, okay, this is an idea I think will work well. Yeah, it definitely happens a lot. The shower is another one, like playing beats in the shower. Everyone, sings like their favorite songs that are in the shower. I think it's a fun thing to like play beats, and as I'm listening to the different beats, like even just think about like, all right, what could I do with this there? So yeah.
I kind of do the same thing in the shower, but as an interview, and it's really easy because all I gotta do is just shut up and listen. So I just sit there in silence, like.
You know what I heard about why people have good ideas in a toilet or in the shower? Because it's the only one space when like nobody's bothering you and you're totally relaxed. Some people have good ideas during a sleep, in the dreams. I have my movies ideas mostly from my dreams. I just, it's this, and this. And of course I change because dreams is always like so weird. So it's like a moment of like when you can be with yourself, being yourself and totally relaxed. So most of people have good ideas like in a bathroom for some reason, because you close the door, you alone, nobody's bothering you. You yourself, naked, standing under the water, just like, yes, this is the song. Or like something like that, you relaxed, you feel good. But do you have moments when you don't feel it's inspiration for a long time? And if you do have moments like this, how do you help yourself to push this?
I feel like writer's block in general is a normal thing for artists. Personally, if I feel like I don't have anything to draw from, where I'm like, I don't know what to go about, I'll just lean right to the conceptual route, where like it may not be a personal experience I went through, but like a feeling or emotion, and kind of just pull from that. So I feel like in general, I'm always able to kind of write towards something as long as I feel the beat. Like my main thing really with like true, like, I just don't know what to do with this. A lot of times stems from like, if I don't really like the production, I feel like if I'm forcing myself to write to it just to do it, I feel like I hit a wall. But usually if I hear a beat and I'm enjoying it, or like I have an idea and the concept itself is exciting, I feel like I write fairly quickly.
Well, Junad, this has been a great conversation, man. And hopefully this isn't the last time. Want to give you a chance to just promote whatever you have going on. Your camera's there, so whenever you're ready, let people know where to find you.
You can find me on all streaming platforms under Junad, Junad. All social media platforms, Junad TME, Junad TME. On TikTok specifically is where we do the live music review. If you're an artist or have a friend that's an artist, send in your music, send in their music. It doesn't have to be just the artist submitting. Support your peoples, give them exposure. And then, of course, if you want to tap in with the event, you could find the Proving Grounds Delaware event on the Posh app, available on both the App Store and the Play Store. And if anything, if you like what's going on and you want to stay tuned on the career updates, tap in with the mailing list. You give us your name, phone number, and email, and get all the updates of everything we have going on.
And then where can they find the merch again?
TrifectaEmpire.com.
TrifectaEmpire.com. Junad, thank you again. Really appreciate it.
Hey, thank y'all.
And we hope you guys enjoyed the episode.
Like, comment, subscribe.
I'll just put a like button there.
And also everyone talking about you need to put the the bell, press on the bell to have a notification of new videos.
Yeah, the post.
Turn on the notifications, guys.
Yeah.
Awesome. Picture time?
Picture time.
Yo.
So thank you for watching. So Marie, how'd you feel about that?
Oh, I think it was really cool and really educational.
Yeah, absolutely. Like we're not in music production or anything like that at all. So to have someone like kind of sit down, talk shop with us, especially about like what engineering and mixing is when it comes to making a track. And yeah, Junad's just always like, we've been working with him since, I want to say
March.
Well, yeah, we interviewed Wowo back in March, and then Rodney and B-Roy shortly after. And then it's just as far as like capturing the performance footage and just doing interviews with him and the team, I think we started like late summer. And they've been really welcoming and receptive towards us. Just as far as just like American music and like hip hop, like just after that interview and just after working with them for a while, like has that changed your perspective at all? Or
I think it's make me feel like people who work hard and try to do the best deserve to be on top.
yeah, and those guys are definitely putting in the work.
Jay, what do you think about this interview?
Honestly, it's been pretty great working with them so far, and I'm pretty grateful to Junad for like sitting down and doing this interview with us. Just kind of our journey with this podcast that we're doing, and like the different people we've had on and the different people we're going to have on. It's just been really helpful helping me become a better interviewer and like understanding like the different aspects of production. I thought it was really cool that this time around we were able to put a camera on you. No, I mean, like I want people to know you, and like, and this is just my own personal feelings like about it. Like I think you're a really special like person. You're a great artist. Like you have a really great eye. You have a really great perspective, and I think like, I mean, as you can see here, we now have multiple microphones. Prior to, we just had the one mic, and we're actually using your cell phone to record audio for me. So like just kind of expanding our tool set, our toolkit, just allowed us to, you know, we use phone footage and we were able to put one on you and be able to show you and your expressions and like your interest, like whenever you show interest in a particular subject or when you're asking a question, it's like putting a face behind that, especially for the video aspect, is pretty important for me. And just kind of elevating you and who you are is really important to me too.
I have a question sometimes that most of these questions is just come from that I don't have enough knowledge. I think we both have, when we interviewed interesting people, sometimes whatever they say, for them, it's absolutely obvious. For us, it's something new and we want to know more, and it's always great when a person can explain complicated stuff with the easy language. So yeah, sometimes I ask the questions and I build the questions, really try to go exactly when I wanna and how I wanna get the answer. And sometimes these questions leads to like really deep thoughts about stuff, and we have really good answers, even if it's not totally answering my question, but it's actually sometimes give the person who we interviewed time to think about something else, not the usual thoughts.
I think that's an interesting point. You say, like, sometimes you'll ask a question and you might not exactly get the answer you're looking for. Like, I don't think we ever veered too much off topic, and Junad was a great interviewee. We want to just put that out there. Like, very knowledgeable, very well spoken, like
Easy to understand. Because for me, for example, the complicated language make me feel uncomfortable because I don't feel like I totally can understand what person say. But Junad, respect, really talking like with a baby. I understand everything what he said, and whatever he trying to explain, it was explained really well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like it helps us that we're not super knowledgeable, or at least try to front like we are about the subject matter at hand. I think that, you know, as we've done in the past, we continue to do these interviews with like open eyes and just more of an objective to understand rather than dictate how the conversation should go. Like I've spoken in the past, like about, you know, just like how we do the interviews and how we have these conversations with people. And like the biggest thing that I always say is just like, I just try to shut up and listen. I do that. I think I'm doing that pretty well in interviews, real life, not so much. But in our journey to become better interviewers and become better broadcasters, I think that's the biggest thing. Like when you have people on your platform, like the objective is to give them that platform to be the person that they are.
Let them speak.
And then as far as just like, you know, like pieces like this where it's just you and me talking, then we can really just let our personality show and, you know, like have a more kind of organic conversation about ourselves. And just so you know, stay tuned. We are going to put up a new type of vlog video soon.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's going to be a pretty recent date that we had at the Philadelphia Art Museum. It's a working title. It's still going to be Good Soup After Dark. You know, we have the episodes, we have the clips. And I proposed this to Marie. I hope she still agrees with it and thinks it's cool, but calling them the Jam Sesh. So Jay and Marie, Jam, session. I think it's clever. I think it's cool. If you agree with me, say so in the comments. But Marie, how do you feel about that? Are you excited for us putting that out?
Yes, I'm actually really want to give you a chance to talk because, like he said, he's really like a lots of listening, a lots of questioning people because we try to get to know them, ask a lots of different questions. And I want to let you be interviewed by me, for example, because I think everyone have something interesting to say, something interesting to share. And if we have our platform, it can be a waste if we don't use this opportunity.
Absolutely. And on kind of the same token, we're lining up an interview where you're going to be hosting.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm going to be behind the camera. So this is going to be a pretty versatile channel, you know, the Good Soup Productions channel. We still plan on doing, you know, just the artist profiles, sort of like the, what's that one channel, like Soft White Underbelly type?
Oh, yeah.
Not in black and white. And
not that dramatic.
But definitely just like have a profile for like an artist, business owner, just to kind of just sit in the chair and just really tell their story without too much interruption or interjection from us. We want to continue doing that. And that's kind of where we got started, doing those types of profiles. And we're going to have more of those soon. Admittedly, we have a little bit of a backlog that since I'm a better editor now, I think I can go through those and put some really good stuff out. Like over the past year, we've interviewed so many great people. And instead of just cutting short clips for them, I want to be able to let their stories breathe and just have them share who they are. Yeah, we're going to continue doing the podcast, and we want to do those jam sessions.
Yes.
That being said, if I'll just put this out there now, if you're interested in utilizing our platform and, you know, jumping on our show, whether it's the podcast or you want to get an artist profile done, we also offer services as Good Soup Productions. I just want to leave you a few ways to hit us up. First, you can find us on all platforms.
TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook.
And that handle for all of them is at goodsoup_prod. You can text or call us at 267
Soup.
431 267
Soup.
431.